This is the Body Fuel Performance and Lifestyle Nutrition Podcast. We're here to help you navigate all things nutrition, especially for sports performance, weight loss, and healthy eating. I'm your host, Andrew Dole, registered dietitian, certified executive chef, and USA triathlon coach. Here we go. Hey everyone, Andrew with Body Fuel Multisport here. We're going to tackle the big question, branched chain amino acids. Are they snake oil? Are they magic potion? Who should use them? What do they really do? It took me a little while to get all of the data compiled. I reviewed it again after all of the work I did last week with the short little teaser, and I think I've summarized it down into things that are actionable and understandable. Let's start with YouTube. Let's start with subscribing to the YouTube. Let's start with joining the Body Fuel Multisport Facebook page. It's free. It's always going to be free. Ask questions, join us, be a part. If you're local in Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch, Parker, Lone Tree in that area, come run with us. We've got a great group of events set up and tons of awesome people who are out at all levels. It's walkers and joggers and walk joggers and runners and racers and you name it. It's about being active and changing lives. And please don't wait until you're ready, because if you do, you'll never be ready. You need to just get started today and build into it. Branched chain amino acids. What are they? They are 3 of the 9 essential amino acids used to create and synthesize muscle tissue. They cannot be made in the body, so we have to get them from outside sources, meaning we have to eat them in our food or getting them from supplements. The 3 branched chain amino acids are valine, leucine, and isoleucine. And leucine being probably the most prominent and most important of them all, but they need to be supplemented in a particular ratio. And any of the supplements you get will come that way, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. What are some dietary sources for the branched chain amino acids? They are meat, eggs, dairy, whey, soy, and I have asterisks by the whey and eggs because they are excellent sources, readily bioavailable, high content of leucine product. Background. Why are branched chain amino acids even on the radar for sports performance, specifically triathlete, triathlon, endurance? Here's the thing. Central nervous system fatigue theory came out about how over prolonged periods of time, when glycogen stores are depleted, that tryptophan crosses the blood-brain barrier and that causes fatigue. That fatigue reduces performance. The thought or idea behind some of the studies and research shows that branched chain amino acids compete against the tryptophan crossing the brain, which would therefore prevent the fatigue or mitigate it some, allowing you to perform at a higher level mentally and physically. That theory is still a theory. It is being tested often, and clearly there are studies that show it is beneficial, and then there are studies that show no, it didn't work, and each time someone finds something, another researcher goes out and says, well, I'm going to prove it this way using a different technique, and so we're constantly getting lots of new information. Branched chain amino acids as a fuel source are also part of the background story because they do get used as a fuel source when glycogen sources are depleted. Now, in a short intense burst, like we're talking speed and sprint athletes, it's glycolytic, the distances are very short, and we're not in a depleted situation. And in endurance at ultramarathons, triathlon, marathon, when we're going for prolonged periods of time, you do run into the situation where your glycogen or your muscle sugar stores will be depleted, and the body will now start looking for a source of energy from other places, and branched chain amino acids are one of those. Some of the studies that came across showed that there was a 20% decrease in serum blood branched chain amino acids after a triathlon, which shows they are in fact used as a fuel source. So there may be some need to supplement them during prolonged exercise, but the research doesn't show exactly a performance benefit on race day. So let's talk about what does the research really say. What can branched chain amino acids do? They can reduce perceived delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS. You know, that feeling of pain you get 2 and 3 days after a workout. Now I put it in quotes perceived because the test they used on the individual said, yeah, hey, I don't feel as much pain when I was supplemented with branched chain amino acids. Other studies showed reduced markers of fatigue and markers of muscle damage. So when they took the test, completely different studies, different researchers looking at different parameters, when they took the athletes or the subjects and had them do a repetitive muscle damaging exercise protocol, then they tested the blood before and after, and they looked at these markers, and they said, okay, after branched chain amino acid supplementation, we saw less fatigue markers, less muscle damage markers, so therefore branched chain amino acids must prevent this. Can't say absolutely that is the truth, but when you take the perceived DOMs, the reduced markers of fatigue and the reduced markers of muscle damage, there is probably some convincing evidence that says branched chain amino acids can reduce muscle pain and perhaps reduce muscle damage. Other studies showed that they did not reduce muscle damage. So that's still up in the air. Mental fatigue, peri. So peri means during, post is after, pre is before. Branched chain amino acid supplementation studies also showed that there was some mental fatigue over prolonged endurance events. I think we all know this, especially when glycogen stores are depleted. This falls back into that central nervous system theory. Branched chain amino acids seem to improve the mental performance after the prolonged exercise was performed. They can't really do it during. They also did tests that were performance on consecutive days. So things like stage races such as a Ragnar, trail races, mountain biking races where you're doing multiple events back to back, that they saw better performance back to back because there was less perceived muscle pain and soreness. That's a benefit. Now, this next statement is clearly, it's going to be my opinion, is that I think branched chain amino acids may be beneficial in situations where you have long meets, like a swim meet where you're swimming at 8 a.m. and then you sit around and you don't swim again until 2 p.m. There may be some benefit in branched chain amino acid supplementation between those events to prevent any soreness and fatigue and allow you to perform at a higher level. But clearly there was consecutive day performance increases with branched chain amino acid supplementation. Branched chain amino acids also increased intensity at threshold. That means for sprinters and in triathlon, let's think about sprint and Olympic distance when you're going hard and fast for a relatively short duration, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes, or even sprinters doing things at 30 seconds to 1 minute, they did see an improved intensity at threshold. Now, does that play out into long course or endurance type events, marathon, ultra marathon, 15Ks? Probably not. What they can't do. Now let's talk specifically about what they cannot do. They do not directly improve race day performance. So taking branched chain amino acids on race day is not going to make you go faster or longer. Now, I have to say that with the big but underneath is that performance is a cumulative effect of training stimulus. Okay, so let's reverse back up to branched chain amino acids cannot improve performance on race day. They did studies on ultra, triathlon, and marathon racers, actual, not in a clinical or a research setting where they had people doing, an isolated exercise. These were out in the field, real competitors doing a real event. And when they did the blood markers for fatigue, when they did the performance, they saw no performance benefit in those who supplemented and those who did not. So we have to look at the difference between actual field tests and what they do inside a research laboratory when it's controlled. Those are always different, but I think there is some positive branched chain amino acid benefits to performance and endurance athletes. So what they can't do, they're not going to, if I pop branched chain amino acids or I supplement them for a week before, I'm not going to run faster, I'm not going to go further. But pure performance is based upon the cumulative effect of your entire training plan. Now, if branched chain amino acids can reduce fatigue, reduce muscle damage, have you less perceived muscle pain and soreness, so you actually get more out of your consecutive workouts over the period of your training block, and you get more out of those training, then I would assume, as most of you would, that my performance would be better than. And I think that's fair to say that on a heavy training load, doing triathlon or long endurance sports, ultra marathon, that's kind of specifically what we're talking about, that branched chain amino acids could have a positive effect because it will improve your training over the course of the season. That will ultimately lead to better performance on race day. That is my opinion. How to use. So right now, the research shows that pre-branched chain amino acid supplementation had a better effect on all of the perceived positives than doing it or supplementing afterwards. So what does that mean? Take your branched chain amino acids early in the morning or before a workout. Now, how much should you take? So I'm going to give you some basic guidelines that are some pretty regularly used protocols at 80 milligrams per kilogram of lean body mass and a 2-1-1 ratio. So what does that mean? Well, most of the branched chain amino acids you are going to purchase are going to come in a 2-1-1 leucine, isoleucine to valine ratio. It's just sort of a standard formulation. The leucine is the most important, and it also has how the body utilizes it. It's the best ratio. So the 80 milligrams to kilogram lean body mass, what does that mean? Well, you take your body weight, divide it by 2.2. And now that's all your fat mass, all your bone mass, all your muscle mass. So it's best to have a good idea of what your lean body mass is, and you can do that through a DEXA scan. You can get that from Body Fat USA. Body Fuel members have a great discount here locally in Colorado or Denver. If you can find someone to do an assessment to get your lean body mass, this would be inappropriate. An example of how much supplement that would be, in someone my size at 150 pounds, it would probably be about 4 to 6 grams of BCAAs per day. There is another protocol which is 3.6 grams of leucine to 1 gram of isoleucine and 1 gram of valine. That is actually a protocol used clinically with the elderly. Now you're going to ask me, why would I even use that as an example? Well, leucine and branched chain amino acids are actually used as a protocol in the elderly who are malnutritioned or at risk for lean body mass loss, muscle loss. The leucine and the branched chain amino acids actually stimulates and helps muscle growth and muscle formation. That's really positive in that age group and that subset of people. Now, how does that benefit us as triathletes? Well, if it's helping them, the elderly who are at lean body mass loss issues, it's certainly going to help us who are active and working maintain our lean body mass. And that's positive. So I think either protocol is useful and beneficial. Who should use? Age groupers. At our age, as we get older, between like 35 and 50 and 60, our ability to utilize protein to synthesize muscle mass is decreasing. We actually need more stimulus. So I think it's important for us to maintain our lean body mass. And I also find that most age groupers start to get away from the Olympic and sprint distances and start moving into the completion Ironman, half Ironman. Look, not saying everyone, we're talking about the average age grouper. And now they're going at slower rates. Those long races are strength based. All right, the shorter distance are power, output, but I have to really say that Ironman and half Ironman is a strength game. You need to be strong. You need to maintain that strength for a long period of time. So I think branched chain amino acids and age groupers is super positive. If you're fasted state training, I think the bodybuilders here have this right. When they cut all of their carbohydrates to start cutting down and leaning out, they don't want to lose their lean body mass. Without the carbs, they have no glycogen. We talked about that depleted glycogen state. Branched chain amino acids will be utilized for protein. So instead of breaking down the muscle for that lean body mass preservation and the branched chain amino acids, supplementing branched chain amino acids can help preserve some of that lean body mass. So if you're going to work in the off season, you're going to start to lose weight, you're going to reduce your carbohydrates, you're maybe going to fat adapt, I think, and that fasted training state branched chain amino acid supplementation is going to be beneficial. Prolonged 4+ hour events. You're going to train for a long period of time or you have an event coming up. I do believe that the branched chain amino acids in products like EFS or Endurance First, that when we get to that glycogen depleted state, if we don't have a really good nutrition plan, or even if you do, I think it does not hurt to have the branched chain amino acids because we still are not sure that the central nervous system fatigue theory is untrue or true. So why not? It increased volume training. I think branched chain amino acids are super positive. What does that mean? That's not like heavy lifting loads. What I mean is an endurance, like training plan. We're going 5 to 6 days of training. That's a lot of volume on the body. We need to preserve that lean body mass. We're almost certainly going to be somewhat glycogen depleted over a period of time based on our diet. I think it would help us maintain and preserve, especially the age groupers. Vegan athletes 100% think that you should be on branched chain amino acids for sure, because you're not getting them from your regular sources of diet unless you have a high soy intake. If you're training, here's an asterisk, 2 to 4 days a week, don't bother with the branched chain amino acids, just eat real food. I don't think that there's enough training volume or intensity there that you're going to overwhelm the intake from the diet. Now, what's the short of all of this? I think branched chain amino acids are inexpensive. I think branched chain amino acids are relatively safe, and they're easy to incorporate into a diet. Race day benefits, you probably, like I said, will not see a race day benefit from utilizing branched chain amino acids, but because of the indirect effect of improving your training through the period of time of that base, and all of your training period, you probably will see a performance increase just overall from better training. All right, so if you would, please hit the bell, subscribe to YouTube. I really appreciate it. Check us out on SoundCloud if you want to listen. Join us on Facebook, Body Fuel Multisport, or Body Fuel SPN. I got nothing else for you guys. If you have any more questions, please ask, email, send it over. I hope this helps you make a decision on if or you should use branched chain amino acids. All right, take care.